Direct News TV. January 27, 2024. Israel's war on Gaza rain, cold await Palestinians fleeing to Rafah. Gaza's health ministry says 174 Palestinians were killed and 310 wounded in the enclave in 24 hours. Thousands fleeing fighting in Khan Yunis arrive in overcrowded Rafah, where winter storms have flooded displacement camps. Winter brings more suffering for Palestinians in Gaza, Aid Group Coordinator Riham Jafari, Communications and Advocacy Coordinator for Action Aid in the occupied Palestinian territories, has told Al Jazeera that winter has brought additional suffering for Palestinians in Gaza. More than 1,300,000 people are now living in the open with weak tents. More than 20 people live in one tent made out of nylon which can't protect them from this severe stormy and rainy weather, she said. People are flooded with water inside their tents in Rafah and all parts of Gaza after the huge displacement. Children and women are without warm clothes, and sometimes they can't even find second-hand clothes to buy from the local market due to the limited humanitarian items allowed into Gaza and prevention of commercial items from entering Gaza, she continued. The humanitarian aid that is allowed into Gaza does not include winter items, most of it is food, water and some medical supplies. We tried to provide some warm clothes for women, children, but again we are restricted with the availability of those items in Gaza. 95% of medical staff have evacuated Nasser Hospital. Dr. Ahmed Al-Moghrabi, head of plastic surgery and bones department at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, has given Al Jazeera the latest update regarding the Israeli siege on the hospital. Here are some his key points. Only 8 surgeons and some nursing staff remain at Nasser Hospital. 95% of medical staff have already evacuated to Rafah due to continuous bombing and gunshots. Hundreds of patients need care and surgery, but I stopped doing elective surgeries in my department because there is not enough staff. I'm only doing top, urgent cases. The hospital has been 5 days under a siege. Nothing can enter the hospital in terms of medical supplies, water or food. We don't know for how long we can go on in such circumstances. I'm also a consultant at MSF, Doctors Without Borders, and am in contact with them, but they can't come to the hospital to evacuate me. It is very dangerous. These tanks will fire, shoot at anybody. I'm afraid for the scarcity of food. By next week, I won't be able to afford a proper amount of food for my children. Israeli forces are about 200 to 300 meters, 656 to 984 feet, from the hospital. They are not far away. All the time we can hear the rolling of tanks. A few days ago, when they started invading areas around the hospital, they would shoot, bomb anything in front of them. They don't care. They bomb houses, they bomb and shoot everywhere. It's chaos. We are waiting for leaders of the world to take any action to stop this war, or at least implement a ceasefire. Someone should stop Israel and Netanyahu from committing crimes and genocide against us. Gaza Health Ministry, water system at Nasser Hospital damaged in Israeli attacks. Ashraf al-Qudra, spokesman for the ministry, says in a statement that water tanks in the Nasser medical complex were damaged and malfunctioned as a result of shrapnel and Israeli drone fire. The damage has led to water leaking into buildings and into the hospital's intensive care unit. It has also led to a water shortage in the dialysis center, he added. Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis remains under siege from Israeli forces, who have surrounded the facility and forced residents to evacuate. Netanyahu doubles down on criticism of Qatar. The Israeli Prime Minister tells reporters that Qatar hosts and funds Hamas, and that it should use this position to put pressure on the Palestinian group to bring about the release of the Israeli captives still held in Gaza. Several senior Hamas members reside in Qatar, and Qatar has played a key mediator role throughout the duration of Israel's war on Gaza, brokering a deal earlier this month that saw medical supplies enter the Strip, and a deal late last year that saw the return of a number of Israeli captives in exchange for Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. When asked about leaked closed-door remarks in which he criticized Qatar's mediator role, deeming it problematic, Netanyahu told reporters, "I take back nothing. Smotrich says Gaza will be placed under military administration. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich has said that Gaza will be ruled by a military administration that will also oversee civil matters, undercutting U.S. statements that Gaza must not be occupied by Israeli authorities following the end of the war. There will be a military administration of Gaza and it will also be responsible for civilian matters, Smotrich said in a television interview with an Israeli broadcaster. The far-right minister also said that protests in Israel demanding the government prioritize the return of the remaining captives, even if it means a deal with Hamas, are hurting the war effort. "I'm telling the truth, it's not popular either, there is a way to try to bring them back, but anyone who claims that they can all be returned tomorrow is not telling the truth," he said. One day after ICJ ruling, little change on the ground in Gaza. Just more than one day after the International Court of Justice ordered Israel to take additional steps to protect civilians in Gaza, little has changed for Palestinians trapped in the besieged enclave. The most triggering concern among Palestinians right now is whether the fighting will extend to reach Rafah in the coming days, as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the fighting on the ground will continue until ultimate victory over Hamas in Gaza. Palestinians are afraid that they will find no place to remain, Al Jazeera correspondent Tariq Abu Azam reported from Rafah. Ugandan government distances itself from judge who cast sole dissenting vote in ICJ case. The government of Uganda has released a statement underscoring its support for South Africa's case before the ICJ and calling for an end to the war in Gaza. The statement also stated that the actions of Ugandan judge Julia Sebutinde, who was the only member of the court to vote against every provisional measure to protect Palestinians in Gaza on Friday, does not in any way reflect the position of the government of the Republic of Uganda. The U.S. must act to end the Gaza disaster, U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders has penned an op-ed piece in the UK newspaper The Guardian, calling out U.S. complicity in the thousands of civilian deaths in the Gaza Strip as Israel's war continues. "Let's be clear. What's happening in Gaza is not just some unfortunate tragedy taking place thousands of miles from our shores. The United States provides Israel with $3.8 billion in military aid every year, and the bombs and military equipment that are destroying Gaza are made in America. In other words, we are complicit in what is happening," he wrote. The op-ed calls on the Biden administration and his fellow lawmakers to end U.S. military support for Israel while it continues to carry out its war. The United States must stop asking Israel to do the right thing. It's time to start telling Israel it must do these things or it will lose our support, the piece concludes. Netherlands suspends UNRWA assistance. The Netherlands has become the latest country to suspend assistance to UNRWA, according to Dutch media reports and the news outlet Reuters. Dutch news reported that a spokesperson for Aid Minister Geoffrey van Leeuwen confirmed the decision. Van Leeuwen had said on Friday that Holland would closely follow and weigh the outcome of the investigation when considering future Dutch financial contributions to UNRWA. Ireland made principled decision to not suspend UNRWA funding, Special Rapporteur. UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights Defenders Mary Lawler says Michael Martin, Irish Minister for Foreign Affairs and Minister for Defence, has made a principled decision to not suspend UNRWA funding. "Wrong of other governments to make innocent civilians suffer even more," she wrote on X. "My name is Kingsley. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to be notified whenever we post, you won't regret it."